Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Motivation with Rob, and y'all, I got a special treat for y'all today. I got my good friend Joe Colquit, who is a pastor, a minister, a chaplain, and so many more, and so much more. But today's topic is going to be about ministry. And Joe has been in the ministry for a long time, and so he's going to share with us his thoughts about ministry. And so before we get started, I want to give you a little bio about Joe to let y'all know who Joe is, to make sure that he ain't just some dude off the street. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about Joe. Joe is the senior pastor of the Samaritan Church in Brownsburg, Indiana. He has been a pastor of several congregations for over 20 years in places such as South Bend, Chicago Heights, Alabama, and Georgia. Joe did not just stop loving on people in the church. He also serves as a board-certified chaplain in a major healthcare system and as a corporate chaplain in Indianapolis, Indiana. He has a Master's of Divinity. From his ministry, he extends to thousands of people in the healthcare system. Joe also graduated from the Interdenominational Theological Center in Atlanta, Georgia. Joe has a love and passion for writing and the art of preaching. His style of preaching is informative and educational. So, Joe, thank you for taking this time out.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
For just coming to talk to us about ministry. And so, here's my first question. What do you like most about ministry?
I think the thing that I like most about ministry is connecting with people, listening to people, helping people to kind of get a aha moment, especially when along the way we tend to lose ourselves. We tend to lose a sense of who we are and that kind of thing, and even whose we are as spiritual people. I think that my being able to help people reconnect with their core being, that center place of being centered and sense of just feeling whole. That's the goal.
Feeling whole.
Feeling whole, yeah. So listening and helping people to come to terms with their stories and address those things that keep us fragmented but get us to a place of wholeness.
Okay, man. Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's a good way to look at ministry. So let me ask you another question. What do you like least about the ministry?
What do I like least about the ministry? That's an interesting question. I think, like most of us, I don't like the politics of ministry, meaning that the organizational piece, while we need it, we need to have it, we need structure, the tendency to have a great deal more structure than we really need. Because I think ministry is somewhat free-flowing, and it's our being able to adapt and to adopt the situations in a way that we're empowered by something larger than the institution itself, but something larger, meaning God, a force that allows us to step out and not be having to look over our shoulders about what it is we're saying, what it is we're doing in ministry, because people need us to be able to kind of go to those places that are difficult and challenging, and that means that people have to come and people come and bring their full selves, and I want to honor that. And if I'm stymied by the organism of the church, for example, or synagogue, or whatever your faith is, then I'm not able to engage the other person fully and completely. And that means I do risky things in ministry in terms of listening. So yes.
Do you think the politics in ministry is why a lot of people are leaving ministry?
That's a good question. I think that there's something to that. I think that with politics comes a need to hold on to that which was old and traditional and that kind of thing. The problem is, I think, is that when tradition has lost the meaning and the pizzazz that it once had.
Okay.
And so what we end up doing is, at least not we, I think people in the church who get kind of frustrated, we get frustrated with the same old meaning in a time such as this, where we need deeper meaning, more profound meaning,
Okay.
so that people can feel a sense that we're with them every step of the way, because we have these new kinds of revelations in life, in society, and we need to be able to be able to enter in those spaces. And I
Okay.
think the tradition, especially if we just honor it so much so that it doesn't, we don't appreciate the possibilities
Okay.
of getting to know more outside of that tradition, or
Okay.
even deeper into that tradition.
Oh man, very enlightening, very enlightening. So what tasks are most important to you as a pastor?
Yeah, that's another good question. I think the task I think that's most important to me as a pastor is being able to really appreciate people. Because I think that when it comes to preaching, for example, I think that I tend to be able to be more, what's the word? I wouldn't say profound, but relevant when I'm able to hear other people's stories and just engagements and that kind of thing. So when we as ministers neglect the relationships, whatever those relationships are, it's like books. It's when I was in seminary, we read the Bible, we read the newspaper, but sometimes you need to read a novel. You need to read some other stuff to understand the full capacity of the human experience, so that we can get back to the other question, kind of a more profound revelation about a tradition that we're in that needs a little Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. What should the core values of your church be? Of a church or your church or any church be, in your opinion?
I think the core values of any church or any faith tradition, I'm a Christian, and so therefore I think love, is critical. I think our being able to love God with all our hearts, minds, and souls, and love our neighbors as ourselves, I think is so important, very basic to the ministry and making a difference in the lives of people. I think that if we can stay in that space there, I think all the other things will come in terms of those other conversations maybe to be had or to engage in a loving kind of way. So the root, I believe, is the love ethic, and I think Jesus was about love more than anything. It's just us, we take Jesus, and maybe we might even create religion around him, and it takes away from the love. And so the judgment creeps in, and then it becomes that challenge.
That challenge, okay.
Yeah. And so then people tend to say, I don't want to deal with that, because let me phrase it this way. If somebody really knew me, really knew me, I think that they might run for cover. And I think love allows the other to be able to engage me without running.
Oh, that's deep.
So,
that's deep.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. That is good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 more questions, and I'm going to leave you alone.
Okay, all right.
What role does the pastor care in counseling play what role does pastoral care in counseling play to a pastor?
Yeah. So when I graduated from seminary, one of the things that I felt compelled to do was to become a better listener. Now, how would I do that? I entered, when I was in seminary, I took my thing was pastoral theology.
Pastoral theology.
And so I went out and pursued CPE, clinical pastoral education.
Okay.
And I think that to me was so vital in terms of my skill set as a pastor. I was able to listen to people in a way and walk side by side with them in a way that was very, how should I say, that was not real, but real, because I think we can talk it, but can we do it? And I think the thing is in pastoral care and CP and the hospital work, I've been able to be with a patient who has cancer, HIV, diabetes, all this stuff. the need for transplant, they need someone to be able to be with them and not judge them, at least refrain from judging as much as possible, but to go the distance with them so that they can know that that you are truly with them. Because, I remember once there was a patient who was dying, and oftentimes patients tend to die when we leave.
Right.
And I think that death, to some degree, is probably the big embarrassment.
Okay.
Because what happens is the body gives way.
Right, the body.
And I don't want nobody to see me like this.
Right.
And I think that when a chaplain is able to kind of engage people who are in those spaces in an authentic way, walking side by side, they might want you to be with them to the very end. And I've certainly been with patients who I've had to be with them to the very end. And so yeah.
Awesome. That's so insightful. Thank you for that knowledge and wisdom. My last question. How do you believe the church should be involved with the continued education of the congregation?
Yeah. That's a darn good question there, because it's so important that Christian education is what we call it in the church. Christian education, and one of my professors used to say that Christian education is that ministry that undergirds all of the other ministries. And if our Christian education isn't up to code, up to speed, it has a way of the pastor moving on with his preaching, but the educational piece lags behind, and then there's this communication gap. And so in as much as the pastor is preaching profundity and that kind of thing, there's a need for, in the trenches, to really help develop the congregation in spaces that are intimate and personal, so they can grow and learn. So it's so important that education is that we continue that agenda of educating the congregation, and on stuff that requires our digging deep. There was a time when we could probably say, well, how do you fix this? Just give it to Jesus.
Right.
We hear that, and I think one of the things we can do, in addition to giving to Jesus, we can also allow ourselves to be kind of used by God, possessed by God, to be able to embody Jesus' presence in a way that really helps people to get these aha moments. Because they in the trenches, and I'm just saying we need to be in the trenches with people. And you and I know that working in the hospital doing ministry is in the trenches kind of an experience.
Yes,
there's no running from. You got to go to it.
Right.
And so education, I think you asked about education, right?
Yes.
So education is critical in our being able to define, to elaborate in close settings about what the meaning of whatever it is that we're trying to teach. That's so important. Because just like anything, we need to develop a vocabulary. And you take a course in college and say, here's your vocabulary list, learn the words.
Right.
That's the language. And I think it's the same thing in the church. We have to always be defining and elaborating and expounding and really exposing people to powerful words, because words are powerful. Jesus, the word, logos, right?
Okay.
Yeah, all that good stuff. So the word is so important. So, yeah.
Well, Joe, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to enlighten us on Motivation with Rob. Audience, it's been a pleasure having you to listen to us. Please hit that like button and share. Please share this podcast to somebody who's interested in getting involved with ministry, who's actually doing ministry, who might want a different perspective. And again, Joe, thank you for taking your time out to just bless us with your insight about ministry, with all the experience you have in different states and different cities. And so, again...
And Rob, let me just one thing. If you want to hear me preach, I'm at the Samaritan Church.
Yes.
On Facebook Live, the the Samaritan Church at Brownsburg. The Samaritan Church at Brownsburg.
Okay. Is there any other platforms that they can listen to you?
The only thing I use is Facebook Live and Zoom.
And Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you,
Appreciate
everybody.
Man. Okay.
With Motivation with Rob.
All right.